Hello one and all, welcome back to yet another review. This time it shall be my first re-review. It's a small segment that I've announced a while in a previous video. Saying that I was going to do a small series on re-reviews. Some movies that I've looked back and I thought, you know what, I've been a bit too harsh on them. I'm going to bring some positivity to them. And here we are, Spider-Man 3. So if you follow me on my YouTube channel, I reviewed the Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield movies when Civil War came out. Then I reviewed a whole bunch of other movies when new movies came out, like the X-Men films, the MCU movies, yada yada yada, back in 2016. For certain movies like Deadpool, X-Men Apocalypse, and of course Captain America Civil War. And well, nearly 8 years later, it's just insane to me that I'm still reviewing movies. I still want to do it, you know, it's what I like doing. So since that in America anyway, depending on where you're from, if you get a chance to, good on you. Don't think you can in the UK, sadly, but all 8 live action Spider-Man movies have been re-released. Yesterday they showed the first film, Spider-Man. Then next week they'll show Spider-Man 2 and yada yada yada, you get the point. So since with all these Spider-Man re-releases, I thought, why not take a look at Spider-Man 3, because my opinion has changed on Spider-Man 3. Now, before we actually get into Spider-Man 3, I want to take a look at Spider-Man 1 and 2. I love those movies. They're so good. I rewatched them as well. So I've watched the full trilogy recently this weekend to prepare my thoughts. Back when I reviewed those movies, I gave them both 9 out of 10s. Now I would give them 10 out of 10s, which are equivalent to an A+. I love Spider-Man 1 and 2. They are some of the best comic book films ever made. Some of the newer comic book movies that we get now these days have made those movies so much better, I think. But not only just that, but just rewatchability in general, I think, you know. And they are movies that I strongly recommend watching, you know. They are simply some of my favourite movies, and I love them to bits and pieces. Back when I reviewed Spider-Man 3, I gave this a 4 out of 10. You know, I didn't flat out hate the movie. I thought the movie wasn't very good. You know, it was a disappointment compared to the other 2 movies. All honesty, though, I kind of don't mind Spider-Man 3 anymore, to be honest. Sure, is it great? No, of course it's not great. I mean, does it have to be as good as the other 2 movies? No. I mean, it's sort of a debate in trilogies where the first 2 movies are so good, they're so different from one another, and then the third film sort of tries to tie those movies and conclude the trilogy, you know, with other films like Return of the Jedi and The Dark Knight Rises. Spider-Man 3, I think, deserves to be in that territory, and although Spider-Man 3 is certainly not as good as those movies, although I think Return of the Jedi and The Dark Knight Rises are the weakest in the original Star Wars trilogy and the Dark Knight trilogy, you know, it's often debated, you know, that the third film is always the worst in the trilogy. In some cases, it's not really. I mean, if you look at Lord of the Rings and the Bourne trilogy, big exception right there. And for the trilogies, it's either the first or the second that's better, but for a lot of occasions, technically the second's better. But trilogies can go either way, I think. Now, Spider-Man 3, I think the first half of this movie is pretty good, you know, because with the previous 2 Spider-Man movies, with the first Spider-Man, it was more action, it was focused on character origin story. With Spider-Man 2, it was focused on character, you know, there was more drama in there. Spider-Man 3 kind of combines those, and I think the first half of this movie is very good. I think Tobey Maguire is still good as Spider-Man in aspects anyway. I think that Sandman, everything involved with Sandman is brilliant. You know, the way they introduced him, the fight scene on the train. Well, not on the train, but near the train. I thought was pretty good. The final fight scene. Although Topher Grace is not very good in this movie, I will definitely say that Topher Grace is not very good as Venom in this movie. I mean, when you get to see Venom, it's cool, but Venom's rarely in there. But yeah, Topher Grace just... And some other aspects in the movie, you know, the dancing scene later on in the movie near the third act, it completely bogs the movie down a notch. However, thinking back to my Spider-Man 3 review, which I'm not going to delete, it's still going to stay on my YouTube channel. I think that some elements that I was negative on are still there, and some positive things are still there, but have increased and then some. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is a pretty good Gwen Stacy. Nothing special about her, nowhere near as good as the Emma Stone Gwen Stacy, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies myself. And then James Franco as Harry Osborn, I think, is fine. He's still good in the movies. You know, Jonah Jameson is great, played by J.K. Simmons. And of course, Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, you know. And yeah, Spider-Man 3 is often memed a lot with, you know, Bully Maguire. You know, but honestly, I think what Spider-Man 2 did so well, it sort of set up Spider-Man 3 in some way, where, spoilers in case you haven't seen, that's your warning, near the end of Spider-Man 2, Harry Osborn can just see his father briefly, Norman Osborn, the old Goblin, and so there you go. It pretty much sets up, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It pretty much sets up Spider-Man 3 in some way, where Harry Osborn is the new Goblin. And so, yeah, Sony did kind of force Sam Raimi, the director, to do a lot. I mean, because with the previous two movies, there was only one villain. In here, there's like 2 or 3. You know, there's Sandman, Venom, and at times, whenever Harry Osborn is Goblin, you know, it's just kind of all over the place, you know. But I think this movie, you know, there's certainly good elements in here, you know. I mean, I don't think this movie is that bad. I think there are much worse comic book movies than this, and there's obviously much better comic book movies out there than this. But this is, technically speaking, still Spider-Man canon, and no argument. There's just a lot of aspects that don't work. The dancing scene, the aspects are just completely useless. And then Topher Grace, not very good. But I think everything else in the movie is actually pretty good. The action is very good. It's got some emotion here and there, which did get me quite emotional. You know, the debate between Gwen Stacy and MJ, whether Peter Parker should be whoever with, you know. And then, you know, I think the movie at times does wrap up quite nicely. I think the scene where Peter Parker and MJ at the very end have their dancing moment, the only good dancing moment, and then that's the end of the movie. And if you're a Snow Patrol fan, it's mentioned during the credits, and it does play the theme, so woohoo for someone who lives here in Northern Ireland, you know. Northern Irish band, eh? But overall, guys, Spider-Man 3, I think, I know I didn't say a lot. If you want to see my previous review, go and check out. I've reviewed it like 8 years ago, but I just wanted to tell you that I don't hate Spider-Man 3 as much anymore. It's nowhere near 4 out of 10 anymore. It's like, I'm not going to grade this movie or anything, but it's like it's between a 6 and a 7 somewhere, you know. It's definitely, I'd say it's better than X-Men The Last Stand, definitely, in regards to third installments out there. You know, I could definitely say that. You know, I don't really think the movie deserves all the hate. You know, it's a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes and all. So similarly, 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which I think is probably a fair score anyway. Maybe I would give it slightly more than that, but I mean, yeah, not a great movie. I mean, but certainly not a bad movie, Spider-Man 3. So there you go, guys. Those are my re-thoughts on Spider-Man 3, if you want to call this series that. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think of Spider-Man 3. Do you hate this movie? I understand if you do. Now I get to think people are too harsh on it. I can completely understand, you know. Let me know below in the comments. Let's have a great discussion down there, you know. I do have like one other re-review which will come out next month, I think. Then I might start focus on my guilty pleasure segment, which is another segment that I've announced. Looking forward to bringing you guys that. But yeah, as always, guys, if you're new, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share the video, notify that bell before you leave. And as always, until my next video, I shall see you then. And with great power comes great responsibility and peace.